Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. I am your host Warren, and today I have a really special guest. This is Louise, who has come over to join us from across the world. Louise has been training with, or known me for over 11 years now. We started training together in a commercial gym, and we're going to talk a little bit about her journey with health and fitness and a little bit about her story along the way. So to get started off, Louise, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're now from, and what you're doing with yourself?
So I'm Louise. I've had various names in the gym by Warren over the years, and I am 37 now. I'm originally from Stockton. So like I said, first met was 11 years ago in a commercial gym. And that was the real kind of start of my fitness journey, I would say. And I then followed Warren to Teesside Barbell Club, as we used to be, TBC. And now I've come back and tried out Infinity while I'm here on holiday. So I now live in Sydney, Australia, and I've been there just over 6 years. So I can thank Warren for getting me into fitness.
Great, we're happy to help. So what led you to the commercial gym?
So I moved house and moved into a housing estate near the gym. So it was actually walking distance, but I did think I ended up driving most times.
Like most people do.
Most people do, yeah. And it was basically cheap as chips. Had classes and obviously a big gym floor there. And so yes, I thought I'd give that a go. Decided that I needed to do something for my sanity and to keep fit. And that's obviously I came to your TRX class first when we very first met, and then started with circuits and went from there.
Before that, what were you doing?
I can't really remember, to be honest. I think I might have done a stint at another gym, and I think I did a couple of classes there, like kettlebells and spinning.
Yeah.
Never really ventured into the actual gym weight section. I would only ever do like the treadmill or a cross trainer. I would never have gone in the weight section because I was always too scared. So I did go to another commercial gym, and I did used to do my Irish dancing, which I still do now in Australia. I did do dancing as well, but I didn't train the way I train now. You would never have caught me in the weight section. I wouldn't have even been able to pick up a dumbbell. I was so self-conscious in the gym, and it was only when you really forced me into that weight section, not the ladies section, the actual weight section, and you showed me how to use certain things and certain equipment that built some confidence. But it took me a while. Like at first I would never go in unless Warren was with me. I was too scared to go in. So if I was ever in the gym on my own, I would go just on the cardio machines, but like when you were there I would go and actually lift some weights.
I think that's one of the things that a lot of ladies get really nervous about going into the gym. Like the things that you talked about there is like, you can build in your head an idea of like how daunting it is. And I think from my perspective, being a personal trainer, like it took me a little time when I first started going in, because I get it. You create the intimidation a lot of the times in your mind, but sometimes people experience that, and Libby had a real experience with that when she first started training with me, where someone made a derogatory comment to her, and that could have put her off if she hadn't worked with me already. Now, she told me this, and I was infuriated that a guy had approached her and said something like that, because at the end of the day, we all go to the gym to better ourselves. Like, we all want better health. No one wants to spend the majority of people that we work with in particular don't want to spend their lives in there. Now, I just want to touch back on something there. You mentioned that you've been to commercial gyms and you've done classes before. What was it that you think that didn't make it stick? Like, because a lot of people go through this cycle of trying these different classes and they say they enjoy them, but they never make it stick. Now, we're 11 years on now from getting to know each other, and you have, even in Australia, when we see stuff on social media, you've still kept physically active going over there.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think has sort of built that up for you?
I think it was finding the right type of training and the right training environment. Though I did go to classes at other commercial gyms, there weren't classes that for me, I actually enjoyed. I was kind of just doing them because I didn't want to go in the gym on my own, didn't really know what I was doing in the gym on my own, and I just needed to do something, some sort of movement. But the classes I was doing I didn't really enjoy them, I didn't love them, and I didn't get a sense of, oh yeah, I'm feeling great afterwards. So I just feel like it was more like a chore to go, like it was more like forcing myself to go rather than actually wanting to go. And I think that was the difference, like when we first met you, is that, you know, your classes, you showed me a different way of moving and a different way of exercising and a different way of training in a way that I actually enjoyed, but you made it really easy to understand. You didn't overcomplicate anything, but also just taking me and encouraging me to lift them weight. I just felt so powerful doing it and so strong, and I just loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a big thing for a lot of ladies. Like, it can be daunting taking that first step, and that's one of the things that we'll tell to the ladies who come through the door. Like, often reaching out to the hardest step at first. After that, the first time you come in the door, we know that it's daunting, it's nerve-wracking. It's like turning up to that first day of school.
Yeah.
Like, there's a little bit of hand-holding involved, but we meet everybody at the door rather than you having to come into an environment where you feel like everybody's looking at you, guide you through what's going to happen next, and help you to feel at ease when you're doing it. And I think from working with yourself, Louise, it was something that I started to notice early on, is that so many people feel very sheepish about what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's like, you'll see people come in through the door. You might have noticed this just this week. Louise has only been with us for a short week over Christmas while she's visiting family. But like, there'll be new people coming in and they sort of gravitate towards the back, and they still do the same thing. And I always make a point to the team to go over and invite that person, have a conversation with them, just ask them about how the day's gone. It doesn't need to be anything about the gym. And I think that's one of the most relaxing things. And I think without actually knowing it, that's one of the best things about doing the circuits classes. Because for me, like, I go into the gym environment, I was quite introverted. I didn't care what anyone else was doing. I just went in and I trained. But when I started coaching, I realized that I had to be a different type of person.
Yeah.
And when I was doing the circuits classes, I got frustrated with seeing people doing the same thing over and over again. And like, a lot of people will think, well, I'm just doing a class. And most personal trainers get paid £20 an hour for doing those classes. Back in the day, they did anyway. It might be more now. But they show up to those classes as a means to get that payment. When I went there, I wanted to make sure that everyone got like a little bit better at each time they did it. And then when I got to know people outside the gym, I still remember walking outside the doors outside the gym and seeing you on the assisted pull-up machine and coming over and showing you like different ways to do that. Like, spending a bit of time with people like yourself just to give you that motivation. Like, I knew that, like, just by doing that, it gives you a bit more confidence in doing that one thing. By doing that one exercise, you might come in and do that regularly. Then you show you the next thing, then you show the next thing. And that's how I led people into the free weights area. A lot of people don't recognize it at the time, but I did the same thing with so many people. When you've gone to Australia, did you find it easy, the transition to get back into the gym? Like, what was that like?
I found it very hard, actually. So I did find it very hard because the gyms are different there. And I remember the first gym I joined and I went in and no one spoke to me. There was no one to have a bit of banter with. Like, and obviously coming from TBC or Infinity early days, we had such a good group of women, and we all used to have banter. We used to do, we used to smash our goals. We used to be getting strong, cheer each other on and things like that. And obviously you and Libby didn't have views either. And it was very, like, quite disappointing really that there wasn't really a gym community. So there was no kind of sense of anyone wanting to talk to anyone. It was kind of just like everyone's headphones on, no one's making eye contact. So I found it a little bit rubbish, to be honest, at first. But I had plans that you and Libby had given me, so I tried to follow them the best I could. And then I moved and I went to the same gym but somewhere else, and it just wasn't a nice training environment.
Are these commercial gyms?
Commercial gyms,
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they did have classes in there, but they just weren't. It just wasn't the same feeling. There was no sense of like community or anything like that. I've moved around a little bit, so I've tried a few different gyms. So I have worked with some PTs in Australia and found that I got better results when I was working with the PTs, but that was intermittent. It wasn't always because I moved around, and so I had to stop and then start again and things. I also did some boxing with a professional boxer, learn how to box.
Yeah.
And I loved that. So I did that for a while as well, but again, moved around and things, and then COVID happened and things. But during the COVID lockdowns, I worked out with a PT because we could do that outdoors. I did do some outdoor training, even in winter, and it was freezing. We did it.
I mean, Australia freezing compared to our freezing's a little bit different.
Oh yeah, I still had shorts. I still had shorts on to train. But yeah, so I did do that, and that was great. But then different life events happened, and I just found I wasn't in a consistent routine. It wasn't like built-in habits.
Yeah.
Whereas like coming to the classes with the girls, the team OGs. you know, like that was just something that I looked forward to, and it was also not just about the health and fitness aspect, but it was also like having that community with the girls and having that catch up and stuff, and you know, like catch up on the gossip and having a good chat and having some banter and stuff, and the social aspects. Like we still obviously speak to each other now, and we still catch up now, which is great when I'm back. So I kind of missed that. So I've actually joined a new gym this year, and it is a group fitness training.
You can
place.
name it if you want.
Oh, shout out to Refit in Calabar in Sydney, South East Sydney. We love them. And that's a different format to Infinity. It is mixed and it's bigger groups in terms of the classes. But I found that class environment again, that community environment, and it is a different community. Nothing will ever be the same as TVC, hands down, or Infinity, I should say, sorry. I'm old school, sorry guys. But yeah, so in terms of that, like I've found that works best for me, and that's what you started. So, yeah.
It's amazing to see, because I mean, this is one of the things that I touch on all the time. Like yourself, you moved to Australia, you've gone to Sydney. Jolene's moved, I forget where she's at now.
She's on the Sunshine Coast. Shout out to Jolene, followed in my footsteps.
We've had a few other ladies who've moved across the pond. It's probably across the whole of the world, really, not the pond, it's not America. But we've had a few ladies who've moved on, and like one of the most amazing things is that when people join us is seeing them actually engage in something else, moving on to the next thing. Like meeting up with some of the ladies yesterday who used to come to the gym, who've gone on to do other things. One of the worst things that I find that people do is they engage in physical activity for a while, and then for whatever reason they leave. They don't do anything. They convince themselves that they don't have time. It's not the right time for them. They're going to focus on other areas. Finances don't allow them to do it. But then their health goes to crap, basically, goes to shit, to put it bluntly, as a result of them focusing on increasing the wealth. And there's a famous saying around this, and I don't know if you agree with it, but like we spend our health trying to gain our wealth, and then we spend our wealth trying to regain our health at a later point in life. And so many ladies do this. I see this challenge again and again and again. And especially with, like, you're not there yet, but like when the ladies get towards perimenopause, when they get in the menopause, some of the ladies were talking about that last night, you start to notice these changes in the body. Now, you notice them when you're a teen anyway, when you start going through puberty. It can be quite daunting, but women, different to men, go through different stages, and a lot of people aren't aware of these changes, and the benefits that come with staying physically active, in particular for women, are profound. Like, not just for the physical side of things, as you mentioned there, the community aspect of it. That's why I love the fact that you've been able to go over there, even though you've tried different things. It's never stopped you from carrying on. You've gone to a commercial gym, it wasn't what you wanted. You've gone to a different area, same commercial gym, same vibe. The environment's just not set up in a way to nurture you to get what you want from your health and your fitness. Now you've gone to the gym's independent, in it, that you go to now. So like generally with the independent gyms, you'll find a better community, and it's just finding the right one that fits for you. It's not that any of them are good or bad, it's just that you've got a different vibe and a different community. I remember going to Perth in Australia 2017, and I went to a gym called The Shack, so shout out to The Shack. They're a CrossFit type gym, I believe, and I was doing a lot of weightlifting at the time. They were super accommodating to us. The guys who were in there were lovely. It was great to see the community. They had a creche in there. I'm not putting a creche in my gym at this moment in time, so please don't ask me.
And your gym is opening their creche in January.
I think that's amazing. And one of the best things that I seen in those creches was the older kids were reading stories to the younger kids. You would never see that in a million years here, unless those kids were siblings. And that's taught by and I think that aspect of community is something that has lost pace over a lot of years. Like, we sit in communities now where we don't even know our neighbours. Like, I don't know my next door neighbour's name. I know that they're lovely. I say hello to them. I know the guy who's over the road. But realistically, we stay so disconnected from the people that are around us. And I think when it comes to health and fitness, when you're working on yourself, motivation's only going to take you so far. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that people will face. Like, what do you think?
I think in terms of, it's about consistency and building that habit and being committed to yourself and pushing through. I mean, when I've been to commercial gyms, I have struggled to get there. Like, just physically getting there was the struggle. Once I was there, I was okay, but actually it was the thought of going there. Whereas now, with like obviously coming here, I've been getting up and coming for 6 a.m. classes and I'm on holiday, but I love it and it's part of my routine. And it's more about now for me the benefits to the mental health as well as the physical health. And I've had a few health issues over the past year. And since coming back to fitness, strength training and being consistent with it, I've really noticed a real improvement in not only my physical health, but my mental health as well. So I'm really pleased about that. But I think some of the challenges, like people expect quick results, they expect things to happen overnight. And also sometimes people are so in their comfort zone, they don't push themselves to do better. So they might just do the same thing and then not see results that they want to see, but because they're just doing the same thing constantly and they're not challenging themselves enough. But yeah, I do think it's mind over matter. Definitely mind over matter. If you can control your mind and get in the gym, you know, it's much better. And especially if you come to an independent gym where you've got people who actually care, because you're not just a number to them. Like you're actually a person and they actually care about you and they care about your results and they help you to focus on your goals. They want to see you succeed, they want to see you win, whereas they're not just someone who's been paid an hourly rate in a commercial gym and they couldn't care less who you are. So I feel like that's another big benefit as well.
It's, it is interesting because like from my point of view as a coach now, we have conversations around all the time, like how do we get people to show up more? Because there are people out there who will pay for coaching, they'll pay for personal trainers, pay an awful lot of money, then make excuses. Like I've experienced this along the way. I've had people pay for me up front for 3 months worth of training, show up to the first 2 sessions. This is a genuine case. Show up to the first 2 sessions and then not show up again. When I reach out and I message them, they just ghost you. Now, it's very easy to say that person doesn't want it enough, but everybody's got different things going on in their life. So what we often try and do now is make sure that we accommodate for those people who've got the busy lives, who've got other challenges going on. I mean, obviously, we'll only touch on this a bit if you're happy to talk about it. But you had an individual challenge before you moved to Australia, didn't you? Yeah. With your mum, and I met Louise's mum through the circuits classes, and I always remember that she was very headstrong, where you probably get a lot of it from. We'd be doing these circuits classes, and I can still remember a lot of the faces of the people that come in there because they showed up consistently week by week. And yourself, we were having a chat before we jumped on this about like how your mum used to knock you off the medicine balls when you were doing some of the exercises, and having that little bit of a laugh, and obviously having that nurturing in a way, like doing that with your mum is like, oh, it's great to do that. And obviously as you got better and better and you started doing the training, like we were talking about, you were doing 2 of the exercise classes and then going into the gym as well. Like you had all of those things, but you've still been able to change your identity or shift your mindset around that to stay focused on your health even through all these challenges. Like, why do you think that is?
I think because my mum unfortunately passed away in 2018 from cancer, and she was relatively fit and healthy. She used to come to the gym, and we used to meet at the gym because we obviously didn't live together, so we used to meet at the gym and do circuits class together, which was always fun, but it was hilarious when she used to just knock me off the medicine ball, send me flying. And we actually used to do Irish dancing together as well, which I don't know if you knew that. We did.
I didn't know that, because I don't think I actually knew that until you'd moved to Australia, and then I'd seen some of the videos and stuff.
Into raps, I've done it for years. So I used to do Irish dancing, and my mum actually used to come along to that too. So we used to do little few things together, which was cute. So so when she got a very rare form of head and neck cancer, and obviously died due to that. And so I actually took time off to care for her, and just seeing what that did to her, what the treatments did to her, but then also how the cancer impacted her life. It was devastating, absolutely devastating. And one of the things that helped was that I would still work out whilst looking after her. My aunt would come, or one of my uncles would come and be with my mum, and I would go to the gym for an hour, and that just helped with my mental health more than anything. I wasn't focusing on goals at that point. I wasn't focusing on, trying to look a certain way or anything, because none of that actually mattered. It was more just about I needed an outlet for me. Time. But your health is wealth. Without your health, you've got nothing. So you can have all the money in your bank, but if you're not healthy, it's worthless. It's literally worthless. And as you start to get older as well, especially for women, we go through cycles and we go through lots of different body changes. I really want to make sure that as I'm getting older, that I'm still strong and that I'm not going to be struggling to like get up the stairs and things like that, and different things as I get older. But I just think without your health, you've got nothing.
And I mean, it is sad to see when obviously someone puts that much attention into the health, like your mum did. I mean, I still remember that your mum would come in to the sessions, and like I'm new as a PT, and you'd see people in there, and you'd make, like everyone does this, you make a judgment on whether you think that someone can do it. And then I've been pleasantly surprised so many times as a coach now, when people come in, and even if they're overweight, they've been presenting themselves as someone who is strong, who's mobile, who is fit and healthy, they just need a little bit of help to shift the mindset around exercise, around their weight, and make a few changes to transform that. Yet your mum was just someone who come in, who did the exercises, and I was like, right, I need to make this harder next week. And I always, like that group of girls that I talk about were the ones that I was like, right, if I base the program that I build around this, because a lot of my circuits classes, I was thinking, how can I make it better week on week? If these same people show up, and they were the same people every week, I'd say of a class group size of about 25. I mean, we talked about when 40 people randomly showed up to this class, just thinking that it was just show up and train, which was daunting for me. But of a group size of about 25, there was less than half of them that showed up every week. So I would accommodate for people that were just randomly showing up to do a workout, but also for people like yourself and your mum who were consistently showing up, because I didn't want those people to fall off in thinking that they weren't getting anything out of it. And that's one of the things that I built in my head. So many people don't get results when they go to exercise classes like your body pump, your clubber size and things like that, because there's no meaningful way to progress it. The only way that you do is get faster. Like people in body pump use the same weights over and over. They feel tired, but they're not actually making progress. And just to touch on your own individual progress, like we started when I remember walking out the class and you were doing the assisted chin-ups, and you were working with that personal trainer in Australia. And I remember seeing, I don't know if it was 3 reps you did, but you'd posted a video with the 3 reps.
We got up to 6 or 7.
6 or 7? Yeah. And I mean, that challenge in itself, like now, that's built your mindset. Like you might not be able to do that right now if you stop doing it, but you can always get back to that, and it's so much easier to get back to that point.
I'm on my way back to that.
But I mean, it's amazing to see, because just having that support and encouragement can guide you to that.
But don't forget, I did my first ever chin-up at TBC.
That is true. I mean,
I walked in one day and I was like, oh, I wonder if I can do one. Did it, and then was like fuming at you because you hadn't filmed it. So then I was like, I have to do it again now. And then I did another one so you could film it, and I've still got the video.
You'll have to send me that video, because when I went to Australia, my phone decided to burn itself out, so I lost a lot of videos from there.
The first ever chin-up, that was thanks to you.
We call it 1.2 because I missed the first one. But yeah, I think that's one of the major things, like especially for me, whenever I work with someone, I want people to be like yourself. Like you go off and you do other things. Are you still physically active? Just the other day I spoke to a lady who'd worked with us for 3 months, and I mean, she was a lovely lady. She wanted to work on it, but she decided not to continue. And I said, the worst thing that you can do now is nothing. If you're going to leave here, if you've decided that this isn't right for you, if you can't afford it or whatever, you need to make sure that you've got something in its place, because otherwise you've wasted your investment for that period of time. There's so many people who go and lose the weight and then go back to their old lifestyle. They never make changes that make it sustainable. And this is why we see data on so many people. Doesn't matter what diet you do, you end up putting that weight back on. Doesn't matter what exercise regime you do, because if you spend 3 weeks doing it and then you spend 6 months off, when you come back to it, of course, it's going to be harder. And as you get older, you start to notice these challenges more. And this, I think, personally, builds into the mindset of why people don't actually try. Like when people give up for long periods, they convince themselves that they can't do it. Which creates a negative mindset loop, which then feeds into them no longer doing it, or saying like, oh, I just can't. And the infectious part of this is that seeps into the people that are younger, the next generation. And obviously from my own standpoint of being a dad, that I never want my daughter to experience that, because ladies like yourself get nervous going into the commercial gym. Like she's already had hold of her first kettlebell, she's been lifting half a kilo weights, she's just a year old. Now, some people will think that's wrong, but like for me, it's been in that environment that's the key thing.
Yeah.
And that's the touch point that we've talked on a little bit, is like environment is so key. What would you say has been the biggest factors in nurturing that environment, would you say?
I think coaches. I think obviously having people that actually care and invested in you and your journey as well and want to see you succeed massively helps. But also bringing the right group of people together. So having women supporting women, like how it is at Infinity, everyone's cheering for everyone. Everyone's wanting to see other people succeed, and when people are getting the PBs and things like that, you can see people are celebrating that, and it's not a competition, not a competitive environment where everyone's trying to compete with everyone and trying to get to the top. Everyone's wanting to see everyone succeed.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a big difference. So I think that's led by the coaches, because it's the environment that you create and that you foster and nurture, and how you encourage people, that it actually then feeds into the community. And things like the community page where everyone's messaging and sending memes and like having a laugh and having a bit of banter, doing the social events that you do. I would like to say the first ever Prosecco and pizza party was for me leaving to Australia. So I did start that trend.
Yeah, you did.
I did start that trend. Just doing things like that though as well, having them socials as well as the fitness and health and fitness community, to show that you can have that balance, that you don't have to be so regimented.
Yeah.
And that you don't have to be so restrictive in things, because that's when you're going to get the results, because you're able to live your life still and enjoy life, but you're also getting the health benefits as well from working out and training.
I think a key component of it is knowing what you want from it. A lot of people start with, I want to tone up, I want to lose weight. I get the messages all the time. The reason that people carry on is nothing to do with that.
No.
You've mentioned environment, you've mentioned community, you've mentioned being around like-minded people. Those things are so important. Now, you've been through lots of different challenges. You just finished one before you come over.
Yeah.
How did you fare on that?
Oh, I did really well. Finished in the top 12 of 60 people.
Oh, was it like a challenge of a group of people?
There was 60 people doing the challenge.
Nice.
I finished within the top 12. I got 12. So I actually I did lose weight. I lost 5.6 kg. I lost nearly 5% body fat, which was great. And I wasn't restrictive eating. I was doing a calorie deficit, but I was doing like 1,600 calories, so not like rabbit food or anything like that. I was focusing on protein, rich foods, and had no issues with the eating. Was training how I usually train, but also we did fitness testing, and I knocked 11 seconds off my fitness test.
Nice. So what was the fitness test?
So we had to do, I think it was 500 metres on the bike erg, 250 metres on the ski erg, and then 200 metres on the rower, and then we had to do shuttle runs. But I actually injured my leg just before, so before we started the challenge, unfortunately injured my quad. So when I did the first set of testing, I actually couldn't do the running, but could only do the machines.
Right.
And I did them in 3 minutes 10. And then when I did it this time, I did 2 minutes 59 seconds, so just under 3 minutes, and then did 10 shuttle runs as well.
Nice.
Because it was like a 4-minute test, it was.
So that was one after the other?
One after the other, straight, 4 minute, constant 4 minute work.
How did you feel doing it?
I was determined. I was like, I want to beat that first time. It was hard.
What about before you started? Like, how were you feeling going into it?
The first time I was a little bit nervous because I wasn't sure. So the first test I was a bit like, okay, I don't know how I'm going to go here, because never really been a cardio conditioning girly. I've always kind of been like, although I used to do that in the commercial gym years ago, I used to like walk on the treadmill and maybe cycle on the bike for a little bit. I was never a proper cardio. But I've been using the machines as part of like the conditioning classes, and I was a bit like, oh, I'm not sure how I'm going to go. It seems a lot because it's 1, 1, 1 straight, no rest. So, but the second time when I did it, I was so determined. I wanted under 3 minutes, and I got the 2 minutes 59 seconds. I was like, get in. I was so determined that I was just like, nah, just gotta go for it.
See, that's one of the most amazing things that I've seen, is like that transition. We talk about transformations, most people think about weight, but it's like the mindset transition between that nervousness, oh, I don't want to do that. Like, I've met so many ladies over the years who say I'm not competitive, but it's not competitiveness with the person that's next to you, it's competitiveness with the person that you were yesterday. And like, just in doing that, you know that like, oh, well, if I just knock 5 seconds off my time, I've beat it. And like what I've found is a lot of differentiation between it. Like a lot of women will play down their progress in such a small amount of time because they can't focus on the longevity of it. And being able to actually start the first time, that's that nervousness that I mentioned when someone comes through the door. Being able to start on that the first time, the next time all you need to do is beat that. Like when you step on the scales, it's not about being a low weight every single time you do it. It's about consistently showing up, doing the thing, putting the process in. Because like within that, you mentioned the process. I was doing the machines and the conditioning classes, and that's led to that improvement. If you do that, chances are likely we're either going to get the result, we're going to make an improvement, or we're going to have some data so that the next time we repeat it, we've got some things to change. But when people often, like, they don't believe in themselves to show up and put the work in, so they either cancel the sessions, they don't show up, and then when they turn up and they don't do it, they're like, oh well, I've been busy and I've done X, Y, and Z, and they protect themselves from putting that little bit of effort in. But realistically, the only way that you can fail at anything, whether that's weight loss or health and fitness, is if you give up. And that's one of the best things about doing these challenges, is it re-sparks an interest where you might be starting to like notice that it's dropped off. You've gone a few different things since you've been at Infinity. Just to touch back on that, since you left, we left the commercial gym. That was like 2015 to it was the back end of 2018 when you left. In that period, like, when did you leave the gym and do something else?
Like leaving Infinity?
Like Teesside Barbell Club?
Yeah, no, never left.
So you were there for the whole,
Yeah, I was there,
And that, I think, is so key, is finding something that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Not necessarily Teesside Barbell Club, not necessarily like a boot camp that you like, but finding something that you identify with, that you connect with people on a like-minded journey. Because as you mentioned, like the social events that we do, like going out and doing the push-ups in the wobbly goblin. So we had a social event where it was meant to be amicable. 5 o'clock in the morning, some of us were doing push-ups in the wobbly goblin with
Marines. We did a challenge.
Remember when we had that thing and you used to squat people?
I haven't done that for a while. I used to squat men as a challenge.
Squat men, not pull men on a night out, just squat men. Yeah. You'll have to send me some videos of that. That was funny. I haven't seen them for a while.
I've got some pictures, I think, of that.
Well,
and I've got a video. I've got a video, I think, somewhere of one. Yeah, I haven't done that for a while. I said that's my new goal. I want to be able to squat men again. I haven't done that for a while.
So from going to being in the commercial gym, not going into the weights area, to going on a night out, getting some Dutch courage, and then just saying, like, how do you approach that? Like a guy chats up a girl, I want to understand this a little bit better, right? How do you approach that?
I just challenge them and say, oh, I think I could squat you. Let's give it a go.
So I'm stood at the bar, I'm having a drink, and you just like pull up next to me and you just say, I think I could squat you.
Yeah, it first happened at a music festival, and I don't know how it quite came about, but this poor lad, he was scared for his dear life and his friends all egged him on, and I was like, no, I'll be able to squat you.
I think is that the one you've got the video of? Because isn't there two people holding him?
That was, he was scared. He was scared. He thought he was going to fall. He was very tall as well, and I'm quite little, so I think he was very scared about...
I mean, you can touch the floor if you went down too fast, or...
He had no choice. He literally had no choice, this poor guy. Yeah, I had wellies on as well, I think. No,
crazy things happen at festivals.
They do. I don't know how it came about. I think we were talking about strength training, and I was talking with these guys about saying what I do in the gym, and I was like, oh yeah, I can squat quite heavy. I was like, how much do you weigh, do you reckon? And he said something, and I was like, oh, come on, we'll squat you. Literally, I think that's how it came about. Like, how much do you weigh? Yeah, okay, I can squat you. Get on. So I've done it a few times now. Yeah.
What do you find the reception's like when you tell guys that you do strength training? When you initially did it, like I think now it's more mainstream. Like it has been normalised a lot more. I
think it's more mainstream, but I think because I'm so quite a little petite person, people are like, what, really? You're strong? Like they don't expect it, I think, sometimes. But nowadays, like, guys are very, very encouraging, and I think there's a lot more men that love to see it and love to see women getting strong and training and stuff. There's always going to be some guys that are like, do you know what I mean? Like, oh, you can lift weights type of thing. But you'll get that anyway. But I think people used to be shocked, and I think there was a shock factor about when I was able to squat men, and I did it on the Gallon Walk as well with someone before. Did it on the Gallon Walk. Like, Harry, hop on.
Mad.
So.
But it is, I mean, it is...
I love a fitness challenge when I'm
It
out
is.
and about.
It is interesting to see. I mean, I remember we did a walk with some of the girls. We walked from Whitby to Saltburn, and there was this bank, and one of the girls was like, oh, "Jump on my back," and she ran up the bank with her on her back. Yeah. And I mean, it sounds silly to do that stuff, but we lose as we get older. We lose a lot of our playfulness.
Yeah.
We think, "Oh, that's not me," because we fall into the guidelines of what society thinks of us. And I think losing that playfulness is what makes us older. You mentioned there with the Irish dancing, like you'd not really mentioned it while you were over here.
Yeah. Now, I don't know why.
Yeah, and because I wouldn't have said you were someone who would shy away from having a conversation. Like you quite openly would have a chat with someone who you didn't know. Like whereas for me, if I go into a new space, I like to feel it out first. I like to get to know from the background. Whereas like where you fit into that group and that society, because I've always admired it in other people when they're socially confident. Yeah. Whereas when I'm sat in that situation, I'm just like yeah, and I sort of nod along and I'll listen. And then if I find something that's of interest that we have a relatability on, I might have a conversation around that. But I don't generally, when I first get to know someone, I'm not diving into the conversation and like the way I would be. Whereas when I'm passionate about health and fitness, I meet someone out and I speak to a girl like those guys spoke to you. And I get really excited. Oh, what have you done? Like, where do you train? What are you doing with this? Why do you find it so beneficial? Like, what got you started? Like, those questions are so interesting because that helps me to understand that person's mindset. And it also helps me to be a better coach, I believe, because having a perspective on different people, why they do it and why people don't do it, helps me to nurture the people who need it most to move them that one step further. Like from being nervous going into the weight room to then squatting guys at festival. Maybe that can be the title. Is really interesting.
Like what a change of events. Like I literally would never have been seen dead near the free weight. I was always so like, oh my goodness, I can't go in. It's just full of men. Like I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. Now I'm like, move over. I'm coming in. Need some space. I'm doing my weights. So I actually, since I've been back, I went to London first, didn't I? And I went to a commercial gym there, and I did 3 days in a commercial gym, and I wasn't intimidated at all going into the weight section. I actually was like looking at this guy on the squat rack thinking, oh, you hurry up, I want to get in there. I had no qualms, just doing all my exercises. Couldn't care less what anyone thought, if anyone was looking. I actually think I saw some guys, I was doing some barbell hip thrusters, and I actually saw some guys looking at how much weight I had on, and I was like, yes, you better believe we're going strong. So,
it's always impressive to see.
Like I just went to this gym in London and was like, okay, I want to just work out and stuff, and no issues, no kind of confidence issues, anything like that. I also remember once at another commercial gym here one day, and this is like, obviously I was coming to TBC and then going to a commercial gym as well. So when I was doing my own workouts, I remember one day going in and I was going over to the squat rack and this guy was finished. I was like, oh, you finished? He's like, oh yeah. And he's like, do you want me to lift them weights off for you? I went, no, it's my warm-up. He said it in a really condescending way though, as if like I couldn't possibly lift the 20 plate off the bar. I was like, that's my warm-up. You know, this is how we're warming up with this. So just having those little moments and having the confidence, I think, and just feeling strong. There's no better feeling than when you smash some big heavy weights and you're like, yes, I can do this. So yeah, no, but I've got you to thank for that, and Libby. So, and well, especially you for first taking me into the weight section, because I would never in a million years have done it if it hadn't been for you pushing me. Yeah,
and I mean that was part of my whole induction process. Yeah. I mean, I have my own way of looking at inductions in gyms now. I think they've got diluted so much to the point that they'll promise you to take you around, show you at the exercises, give you a program, but they're not personally tailored to you because they don't know enough about you. I still remember going into the commercial gym and I'd done a few inductions, and it was just like, oh, you go around, you show them a couple of bits of the cardio machine, tell them where the weight section is, tell them where this is, and you're just directing them. Like you could give someone a map in order to show them where those areas are. And in the end, I ended up going round and I'm like, right, what do you want to say? What's your goals? And I'd ask the people the questions, and I didn't realise what I was building at the time. I just wanted to interact with people because I was introverted when I was a PT. I'm fine when I'm coaching a class because I'm still at the front. Everyone's expecting me to do something. Yeah. But when I'm walking around and I'm chatting to people, I just thought it's the best way to learn. And some people will be like, oh, I want to train my arms. Right, great. This is an exercise for your arms. You do it like this. This is how it works. What else can we show you? And walk around. And as I got to know those things with them, I was like, oh, what's interesting? What makes you interested about training your arms? Women, oh, I've got bingo wings, which got nicknamed Wingo Bings for some reason with some of the ladies that I trained. Over time, I started to realise what the problems were underlying that. Like, a lot of people needed to lose weight. We all know that, but you started to realise the nervousness and the anxiety that I had around doing those exercises. So sometimes you needed someone there to just walk you in and make you feel a little bit more comfortable, because that first time can be so daunting. Yet here you are, you've transitioned to going into a gym not feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah.
One of the questions that I want to ask you on that is, like, since coming back from Australia, like, I don't know if you'll have been consciously aware of this. Do you feel like things have changed in commercial gyms in terms of the ratio of women using the weight section, or do you think it's still pretty much the same?
So in terms of the gym I went to in London, I was happy to see there was women in the weight section smashing the weights out. I feel like that has changed, because I feel like there's not a stigma about it. And obviously the commercial gym that we first met at had a ladies only section that was like walled off from the whole gym. The men couldn't go in, they couldn't see in there. And I feel like there's been probably a move away from that. I know you still obviously, like within the commercial gyms, like I feel like you see more women now in the weights section, but I think it depends on where that's come from for them in terms of how they've got there, because you still see a lot of women just on the cardio machines as well.
I think there's still a lot of merit to having a ladies only section, because a lot of guys won't say this who go into the gym, because they see it in terms of like, well, we had our work and men's clubs, which they said that women, they couldn't have that women needed to be invited in there. I get it from both sides, but when it comes to a commercial gym, it can be very hard for a lady to take that step to own up. Like, it can be hard for a lot of older men as well to take that first step and say, I need help with this. I need to work on my health and my fitness. And what's holding them back is their own perceptions of what other people are thinking about them. So having the ladies only section, I mean, the ladies only section in that commercial gym in particular had dumbbells that went to 10 kilos. And just for context, we've got 30 kilos in our gym because some of the ladies are at that point.
I don't think it even had a squat rack or anything
No,
like that.
it didn't.
It was like conditioning and baby weights.
Yeah, I think it had 2 treadmills, 2 cross trainers, had a couple of recumbent bikes.
I think it did have a leg press.
Yeah, there was a leg press in there. There was a cable leg press machine, because there was one machine that was in there that I always remember a personal trainer taking his PT client in, because they didn't have it on the main gym floor. We had a little bit of a bus stop over that, because I was training ladies in there, and a lot of people had come up to me and say like, oh, them guys are training in the gym. I don't think that personal trainer had his personal training top on at the time as well, so a lot of ladies were really uncomfortable about that. And I get it, like I get it from their side. I got his frustration because there was only that one piece of gym kit, and that was a design flaw with the people who set up the gym. It should have been on the main floor. But realistically, if it's in there, what should have happened there is you got the manager, you explain the problem, and then maybe it gets moved. Taking someone in, I don't think the personal trainer at the time knew what was happening there, because that can put so many people off to go into the gym.
Absolutely.
Oh, you've got a ladies only gym, but then guys can come in as and when they want. In doing that as a personal trainer, you also show that other guy that it's okay to go in there, and they just dismiss the fact that it's a ladies. Oh, well, I'm just using this one bit of kit, I'll only be 2 minutes. It puts people off, and especially now with religious people, like more religious people going into the gym, if it's like a Muslim woman, they need that space to be able to feel comfortable in it. And I think, like, just accommodating for that, there's nothing right or wrong with it. Like, if you argue against it, like, what difference does it make? If you don't use it, it doesn't matter. But I think for the majority of people, having that space is key.
But interestingly, in the commercial gyms in Australia that I've been in, they've never had women's only sections. It's all mixed. But there are female only gyms. So they have separate female only commercial gyms. So there is like a chain which is for ladies only, that's across Australia that I've seen. So that is interesting. But the commercial gyms that I've been quite small in terms of, even though they've been chains, the size of them have been a lot smaller than like the ones that I've been to here. So possibly just location wise. But yeah, so they do have female only commercial gyms that I've seen. And I'm not sure in some of the other bigger gyms whether they've got women's only sections, but the ones I've been into didn't have that.
Yeah, so it might just be it might just be a nurturing thing because, as I said, a lot of it is down to perspective. Like a lot of people don't feel comfortable going into that environment, and I could see people like on the induction, no one's going to say I'm not going in that area, but I'd like loop people around and then watch the reaction to going into the weights area.
Yeah.
And I used to say to people, listen, this is one of the best areas where you can tone up your body, you can get stronger, you can benefit weight loss. It's not going to help, it's not going to cause weight loss without a calorie deficit, but it can benefit those things when you're doing it right. Now, if anyone's interested, that's where I'd come into the chat about having a consultation about the next steps for them. And I'd say probably 90% of people didn't take me up on it. But then you'd see those same people now struggling, going to boot camps, doing diets, and I still see it all over social media.
Because they don't have the education, though. So it's about education as well, and I think that's one of the things that you and Libby do really well, and Bradley now as well, obviously you've got Bradley, is education around why we do certain things, why do we do that exercise. I heard someone asked you about why were you doing a certain exercise in a certain way, and you explained, well actually because this way we're going to stretch out your shoulders and things like that. So it's also about that education of people. I didn't have a clue until I met you. Like, I didn't have a clue why certain things did certain things, and I always had the crazy view that if I was lifting weights I was going to turn out like a bodybuilder. Like that, a lot of women have that view, because we've not been educated on how to train our bodies and how to train for our bodies as well, and the benefits of weight training for women. I think that's like a huge area where there's still a lot of work to be done, because general population don't get exposed to that education, and then they often have that fear about, I'm going to look like I'm very masculine or going to turn like into a bodybuilder just from lifting some dumbbells type of thing. So I think that is a key thing as well, and one of the real benefits of Infinity is the education that you give to people around this, and the support and the guidance, so that people are lifting in a safe way, they're doing things in a healthy, safe way that's beneficial for them.
Yeah, and I think in particular for the ladies that we work with, like the majority of them are going to be 40 plus now. They're going into perimenopause, they're going through the menopause or the post-menopause, and a lot of ladies still think with that same mindset, like, oh, if I lift weights, I'm going to get big. No, if you eat loads of food, you're going to get big. If you lift weights, it's going to help you to be stronger and healthier. Notice that as people get older, their energy levels take a dip. You've got more aches and pains. You've got more issues when it comes to your joints. But one of the quotes that I heard recently is you can be weak and have pain, or you can be strong and have pain. Movement is a key component of that. We are always going to experience pain at different points throughout our life. Physical, mental, we're going to have back pain and things like that. And often, when you mentioned about the perceptions and the idea around what weights actually do for different people, for women it makes them big. Seemingly for guys, they never get big as a result of doing it because they don't do it in the right way. But it's not necessarily going to be the case. If we can change enough people's perception of that, we can sort of like stem that out a little bit, and that's what I was getting at when you go to the commercial gym. Seeing ladies more actively engaging in strength training, people see the benefits of that. The benefits of social media, seeing it on there, although I think a lot of the time it's done in the wrong way, because you see these young models now that are wearing next to nothing and it puts people off. You don't see a lot of people who are older, although like even on my feed, I see it more and more. Seeing ladies in the 90s doing deadlifts at like 100 kilos.
A lady in her 70s that was doing high rocks recently, and she smashed it. And I was like, that's when I grow up, I want to be like her. Like literally being able to carry all of the shopping bags out of the car at once and not having to do multiple trips to the car. Massive benefit of strength training. Just daft little things like that, and it just helps with everyday life. But you're right in terms of some of the influencers and fitness influencers. A lot of them have had surgery and haven't disclosed that in terms of having BBLs and having different plastic surgeries, and that's their choice and that's great. But I feel sometimes they're implying that what they're doing in the gym is giving them this unrealistic body. Yeah. Because that's never going to be achievable for a lot of people, especially if it's been surgically enhanced. And I think there's not a lot of transparency, and there's also now a lot of software where people can edit the videos and edit their bodies, which is just wild. But people do that. And some people will see that and think, oh, I'm never going to look like that, so what's the point? And
it's also exhausting as well, because you're showing up in a different way than you are. You're not showing your personality, you're showing the person, you're showing someone that you want to be, but you're actually not that person. So when people meet you behind closed doors, they're less likely to be attracted to you if it's the opposite sex. They're less likely to befriend you, because it's like, you've kind of lied in what you do. And I've seen that time and time again within the fitness industry. I've seen that with some of the best people in the fitness industry, in that they say one thing and then when it's behind closed doors, they do a totally different thing. Yeah. I do think it's really sad to see, because one of the things that I've noticed is, like, from doing my coaching, I notice patterns in people. Or the people that show up, you generally notice the patterns in them. Yeah. The people that cancel all the time, make excuses, that say, oh, I can't come today because the kids are ill or whatever. Like, those patterns show up time and time again. Yet when they say, oh, I want to achieve this, it's just a flippant goal. They never apply any of the actions that help them to get that. They never implement the strategies to achieve it. Whereas, like, with these fitness influencers, it's really easy for them because their whole goal is to get as many followers as possible. Exactly. When they get as many followers as possible, oh, here's the program that I use to do this.
Yeah, and lots of ads and lots of sponsored posts and things like that. Yeah, it's hard because that content is being absorbed by young people, and some people feel like that's how they should be looking and strive, and it's causing a lot of issues, a lot of body image issues. And I think it's just done in a different way now. So I grew up in 90s diet culture, where Kate Moss was like, nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. I remember that quote, and like all these years later, because there was such an emphasis on, you need to be thin, you need to be like this, you need to be like that. And for years, that was just ingrained, that actually, if you're going to work out, it's to actually be thin. It's not to develop strength. It's not for your health. It's actually for you to look in a certain way. Whereas now my perspective on training has completely changed. It's more like, actually, I just want to get really strong. And the lights coming on.
1 sec. Hold that strong word.
Try again. For me now, it's about getting strong and being healthy and being able to, like, smash goals in a different way. Like, I'm not focusing on, oh, I want to look like a bikini model type of thing. Yeah. Obviously, being toned is a benefit of lifting weight, but that's ultimately my goal. That's not my goal. My goal is actually about how I feel and about my mental health and my physical health as well.
Yeah, and that leans into the identity shift. Like, someone says, I need to go to the gym. Someone says, I get to go to the gym because I want to identify as someone who's a physically active person. Yeah. Someone doesn't start running because they want to run a marathon. Someone starts running because they want to become a runner. Like, we will see this in January. People are like, oh, I'm going to start running. But then they do a challenge that's like, oh, I'm going to run a 5K. They run the 5K and then they've never adopted that identity, so they never keep it up. We started a running club in the gym and we noticed that a couple of people dropped it off. Yeah. But Bradley has done such a good job. And I mean, he was asking the question the other day, like, oh, am I doing enough with this? Because people aren't engaging with it enough. Yeah. And I think, like, people are just at different stages. It's like, being able to build that in someone's mind, change their perception around it to, listen, I'm gonna try running. If it's not for me, I'm gonna give it 30 days. It's a different perspective on how to approach it. After 30 days, self-evaluate, oh, well, I'm not enjoying this aspect of it, or I've not seen any improvements. Yeah. We can evaluate the data that someone's done on that. Same way that I would as a coach. I know that if someone trains with us, over the course of 28 days, 4 weeks, and they show up to at least 2 sessions, they're more likely to carry on with it. Yeah. If someone comes in and trains over the course of 28 days and they show up to 1 session, it's probably not for them. Right? They're not at the right stage in their life to make that change. Yeah. People will say the right thing. Just like those influencers who are online. Oh, if you want to build bigger arms, here's the best exercise to do it. Like, saying that might appeal to a number of people, but those people then can't go to the gym and replicate that exercise, because there's a lot more that goes into that. You don't just build arms by doing arms. You're going to build better arms by doing things like chin-ups, because it's going to build your body as a whole. But not only that, it's going to build your mindset around what you can achieve long term. Yeah.
Well, in terms of that, like, for me, being on this holiday, I've obviously come back for like a month and I'm exhausted. I've been jet lagged. I had a bit of a stressful time getting here, as we know. I wanted to be consistent with my training, and that's why I reached out to you ages ago, say, hey, can I come back? While I'm back, can I come and train with you and come and work out? Because I knew that I would needed it for me, not only for my physical health, but for my mental health as well. And people are going to me, oh, you could, why are you going at 6 a.m? You could cancel that. And I'm like, no, because that's what's fitting in with my routine, and I've got all these lovely plans that I want to do, but I still want to prioritize my health and actually keeping fit and doing something for me, and that is the time that I can go. So that's why I'm going. So yeah, so I've had multiple people saying, oh, well, you could just, cancel that thing. Well, no, I'm not going to cancel that because I'm booked in and this is what I do. So how I work out in Australia, I work out 5 times a week, and they're like, you work out 5 times a week? I'm like, yeah, I go Monday to Friday to the gym, and I enjoy it. Like, I actually get enjoyment from it. Like, I don't have that dread of, I have to go to the gym or anything like that. I'm not going to lie, when I went to the commercial one in London, I only managed to do 3 workouts, and I found myself getting really bored. Towards the end of the workout, I was like, oh yeah, it's time for me to go. I'm just getting really bored here, because I was on my own, didn't have any coaches with me, didn't have anyone around me working out, and I just noticed like that is really,
It is hard sometimes going it alone, and I think, like, I train myself. One of the things I have to do to keep my mind engaged in it is, like, I set a time to get out. Like, I want to get out in under 50 minutes.
Yeah.
And like, it's very easy when you go on your own to just pick up your phone, look on social media, and you find yourself aimlessly browsing. By that point, your body's cooled down a little bit, and you're not getting the most out of it. Whereas when you show up and you just think, right, this hour is for me, and lots of ladies have said this. When I come to the gym, it's my time to focus on myself. Like, everything else that's going on in the world is aside from that, and it helps them to have a stress relief as well. And I find that super beneficial. I mean, I only go to a commercial gym now because I found that I'm really complacent when I'm training in the gym. Going to a commercial gym takes me 50 minutes. Training where I feel comfortable in Infinity, it can take me 90 minutes because I'll get my laptop out, I'll start doing some work, I'll have some ideas, I'll pull the camera out, I'll do a video, and I'm just like, realistically, what am I doing here? If I focus on one thing and I build in that routine, everything else comes aside from that. And that's what you've got essentially, is like, you've got a routine around that. You've come back, you've planned to come in, you've booked your sessions, your accountability, which most people don't have. You show up to those sessions, you put the work in based on how you feel on the day, and you feel better as a result of that. And even though you're tired, you're jet lagged, you've still been able to be consistent with that. You've just made me think of something now, and I'm going to say this on this podcast, is what we should have probably done is got the OGs and said to them, listen, like, we're going to do a session together, when's everyone free, and maybe recorded a session together.
Next time I'm back.
Just to see where everyone was at, but that would have been a great idea, because you could have got Steph and Sarah in. We could have brought seen if Kelly wanted to come down and stuff, and just bring in a lot of the
Lisa's
girls.
Still coming, so
Lisa's still being coming.
And Julie, get everyone back in,
and get Julie back in. I mean, it was lovely to have a chat and a catch up with them, and so many of them are at like different stages now when it comes to the health and the fitness, but the majority of people have kept physically active, which I think is amazing. I think it's a huge thing if someone adopts that identity, whether it's strength training, rock climbing, jiu-jitsu, gymnastics, whatever the case may be, Irish dancing, anything to keep you physically active is what is going to have a positive influence on those people around you, because you generally gravitate with those people more often. Like, you've come back, you've met up with the girls. Did you know any of them before you started?
Oh, before I started that
before we started training?
No, I've only become friends with them since training together.
So Steph and Sarah, you'd seen them in the circuits class, but you'd never met them until...
Never met them until we actually were at Infinity or TBC together. Like, that's when I actually first spoke to them, was at TBC. Never, when we were doing circuits, although they were in the same class, we never spoke to each other. So I didn't know them at all. I knew a couple of the other girls from the circuits class who started with you as well, but I didn't know them prior to that. And then look at us now, like how many years down the line,
crazy,
and we still meet up now when I come back, and we still have a catch up, and it's always so good to see them.
I think having a circle of people like that is so good, because we've got so many stories along the way. I mean, we were talking about some of the interesting things that Steph was going through just yesterday. But it's like, obviously, your own story. Sarah, who trained with us, had 3 kids essentially while she was there.
She was smashing them weights while heavily pregnant. Obviously, it was safe for her to do so because she's always trained. But I just remember looking at her going, she could give birth any day really in this gym.
Well, her first son, she come in and she did the cardio. So we had the watt bike, and she was doing a lot of cycling there, and she was a little bit nervous around that. But the second time she come in, and I think she come in on either the Wednesday or the Thursday, and that night she'd had her second child. So she went through that process, and obviously Naomi, who is my girlfriend, trained right up until the point of having Nora, and we phoned the hospital and I said, look, I think she's in labour. I was quite relaxed in speaking to them on the phone, and we phoned them up about 3 times, and I said, I think she's in labour, and they were like, oh, it doesn't sound like she is in labour because she's not in that much pain. Anyway, I said in the end, can we come over? We went over to the hospital, went in, and they went, look, we're going to check you over. If you're not 10 centimetres dilated, we're going to send you home. She looked and she was like, yeah, the baby's coming. And literally an hour later, Nora was delivered. So I think there's absolute merit, because we trained a number of people when it comes to pregnancies around being strong to get you through something like that.
Yeah.
And the return to training on that was unbelievable. I mean, we've got videos of Naomi squatting with Nora and just creating that environment for her. So I'm well aware of what I'm doing as a coach. Having her in that environment is going to have a positive impact on her growing up, and hopefully it doesn't have there's no negative influence around like that within the community, because I think like from such a young age, when she's able to, she'll be able to do some form of exercise, and just building that in is just going to build the habits that I would have loved to see at such a young age.
I wish I'd started when I was younger. Like if I'd started and didn't, like when I was like as a teenager even, or even in my early years, I just feel like, wow, my life would have been a lot better sooner, like in terms of health and fitness. I really do wish, because I work out in Australia now, and there's 19-year-olds in doing the weights and things like that, and I was like, I wish I had that confidence at 19 to have been doing that. But I mean, better late than never.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't start doing gymnastics until I was 26. A lot of people think that I've been doing it all my life, but I just, when I have an interest in something, I just go for it, and I give myself a lot of time. I mean, I was in a great place in Leeds to be able to go where some of the top athletes go.
Yeah.
Niall Wilson, I watch a lot of his YouTube videos, and like he does a lot of the YouTube videos in that same place that I was training, and they have an adults class in there, and I just go in and like there's people who were in the 50s who were giving it a go, and I'm like, this is amazing, because you're not in an environment like if I was training and Niall Wilson's there, I'd be like, yeah, I can't do any of that. It'd be not off-putting. But being around other people that are in a similar sort of scenario is amazing. And then you get to know people, and you make those connections, and it makes it more sticky for you to keep on doing that thing. And I think, if we can do it at a young age, it'd be so good. But like one of the things I was talking to Bradley about today is like, there are so many parents that will use time, kids, work as an excuse for why they can't be physically active. Yet those same parents will then take their kids to an activity, sit, watch them do it, whether it's swimming, jiu-jitsu or things like that, sit and watch them do it. They sit in the car all day, they go to work, they sit for hours at work, and then that is only teaching those kids that later on they don't need to do that thing that they're doing now. We try and influence in a positive way by the words that we say and the actions that we try and approach with, but the actions that we actually have ourselves have a profound impact on their ability to stick at it. I feel really fortunate myself that all of my brothers were relatively physically active. My older brother was always into bikes and stuff like that, so it was like quite competitive. Having four of us in a family, it's quite a competitive environment, and I think that that's leaned into a lot for me. But like as you mentioned for yourself, like for a lot of girls growing up, it's like how we look, it's like social things, and I think if exercise becomes more of a social thing, which it does in the right environment, it's going to nurture people in a much better way.
And I think the difficulty is there's so many parents out there are just barely surviving at the minute for various different reasons and different things. So not everybody has that capacity to maybe model physical exercise or have there's a lot of people who probably would consider themselves to be time poor, and they are literally just surviving. And unfortunately they would probably love to be able to do something for themselves, but they probably don't feel like they have that time or that space to do that, because they're prioritizing their children and prioritizing other things that are going on in their lives. So I think it's difficult. In an ideal world, of course, parents would be able to work out and have a brilliant time and demonstrate that to their kids. And I think Nora's so fortunate to have you and Naomi who can model that for her, but that's not going to be reality for a lot of kids today. But yeah, because especially for women, I mean, obviously I'm not a mother myself, but women are expected to work as if they're not mothers, and then be a mother as if they don't work as well. And then there's all the other things that life throws at you, certain curveballs and things like that. And as we know from my life, things don't always go to plan, and things, big life events happen, and unfortunately people don't often have that capacity to be who they want to be necessarily for themselves, because they're just basically surviving. So
I think another piece of that is like having that community around someone to support them in doing it. Because we've talked about this backwards and forwards, but like having the community aspect is like nurturing someone in a way to shift that identity from being I can't do this because of X, Y, and Z to doing the absolute minimum that they can manage. Now, for someone who is time poor, that might simply mean doing a home workout. That's where you start off. And it's like for me, I've recognized this more and more when I first started as a personal trainer. What's the best number of sessions that you can do in order to get the result? Like, how many sessions should I do for fat loss? And what I do as a PT is answer that question. But the problem is I don't understand what's going on in that woman's life. So now looking at it from that perspective, you're 100% right. What then is the minimum amount that that person can do to improve their health? Well, if they're doing nothing, simply going out for a walk and putting on a podcast might be the best possible thing for them. Going out for a walk and taking the kids to Gisborough Forest, taking the kids to Hardwick Hall Country Park, doing that sort of thing is having a positive impact on their mental health, but also the kids as well. And I think that is where people can look to engage in that stuff. Because I think that by taking the kids to these activities, it's like it's a conflict in my mind. Now, I'm not saying that it's right or wrong. I think it's a conflict because you're sat there watching them, you sit there watching them when they're swimming, and they're doing the thing and you're like, oh yeah, good job, and you're on your phone, you're messing about, and you're not really engaged within it. Whereas if you can connect with the kids on that level, like, that'd be amazing. Like, I genuinely didn't have that with my parents growing up, and I don't think illy of them at all, because they were supportive in me playing for a football team, even though I was crap, for doing all the things that I wanted. And I think in nurturing your kids in that positive way, we can sort of create and nurture an environment where people growing up, when they get to the teens, you've got these strong girls. I mean, CrossFit was a massive proponent in that. You touched on High Rocks, which is, High Rocks is more aimed at your general population, and they're walking around with kettlebells. You couldn't have a better carryover to life, because, like, how many times have I talked to people and they say, oh, I want to do the shopping in one go. Like, it sounds so meaningless, but like being able to have the strength to be able to do that has a profound impact on someone's life. And I think that having that positive impact, you don't realize how far that reaches towards our kids, and just having that attitude. So, like, even self-reflectively, I've looked at some of the things that I do as an adult that I maybe never took notice of, and I think, how is that going to influence Nora? Naomi gets on me all the time for picking my nails. She'll love this. But like, just silly things like that, the eating habits that we have, having like sweets and snacks, and like I'll have like a chocolate bar before I have my tea, and Naomi's like, you're going to spoil your tea, and I'm like, it doesn't work like that. But like, looking at it now, I look at it in a different way because of my daughter. I want to look at it in a more positive light, because I want to influence her in a positive way. And I think that's one of the nicest things. One thing I do want to touch on, what's this sport all about that you watch in Australia?
So they actually call it footy over there.
Footy?
So it's the NRL, the National Rugby League. So it's rugby league, and it's big. It's in Sydney, it's really big. So it's different to AFL, it's not Aussie rules. It's the equivalent of the Super League that we have over here.
Right.
So I absolutely love it.
Who do you support?
South Sydney Rabbitohs.
I just remember you going with your friends and seeing it, and I was like, what is this?
I actually love it. So we're all in the off season at the minute. So season starts like pre-season starts February time, and then it kicks off like March. So it's like a winter sport.
Are your team good then?
Well, we haven't done too well the last couple of seasons, but hopefully this year next year, hopefully we'll be back up there.
So what got you interested in it?
So it's very big in Australia, and years ago I used to go to the Super League here. Like, I've been a few times to the Super League.
The rugby?
Not rugby union, like.
Rugby league.
Yeah.
So the difference between them is they play the ball, 6 tackles, rule,
Yeah, and slightly different numbers on the team, slightly different players. The ball's even a slightly different shape as well.
Yeah, the players look totally different as well. So they're not. The players aren't huge. The players are more athletic looking, I'll say.
There are some real big boys.
Yeah, there'll be some, but like on average, your rugby union, which is what you'll see in your six nations, the World Cup. I mean, although they do have a League World Cup, they're generally bigger players. Yeah, but it is like I played at school. I played both of those sports at school, and they are really good. I just found it really interesting when you were.
So I have a footy family. So I have an Australian family. So Marcy adopted me. She's my footy mum, and then I go with her and her children and her family, and that's who I go with. And then some of my friends come along as well. So I picked my team based off the area I was first living in.
Yeah.
And my team's actually owned by Russell Crowe.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
interesting.
So Russell Crowe owns my team, which I didn't know when I first picked them. I was like, okay, support local. Walking down the street, the pub was decked out in my team colours, and I was like, okay, this is my team then. And that's where we've
Cool.
gone from there.
Cool.
So yes, no, I absolutely love it.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Absolutely love it. Just one of those things you would never think that of me, but yeah.
Yeah. I genuinely, well, I didn't know about the Irish dancing, if I'm honest.
I actually did the New South Wales State Championships this year.
Did you?
Did adult Ceilidh competitions. That's
All
like
right.
the group competition. Came third, placed, and got a sash and was on the stage.
Nice.
And I never ever thought, like I was just about to turn 37, I was like, never ever thought in a million years I would be competing at a New South Wales State Championships, but there we go.
Crazy,
Yeah.
crazy. It's amazing to see. So I suppose the question then, what does the future of health and fitness look like for Louise?
Well, at the minute, I've been to the gym every week since the first week in July, and we're now in December. And I've even got plans to go next week when Infinity's closed for Christmas break. And so I've actually done a good stint. So I'm going back to my gym 6th of January. I'll be back at Refit. I can't wait. So I'm looking forward to getting back into my routine there. So it will be just continuing with my strength training and my group fitness training and continuing with my dancing as well. Like I'll be starting that back up when that starts again. It starts at the end of the Australian school holidays because we do school terms only. So
Yeah.
looking forward to going back. And it's actually a really nice little dance school that I go to, and we've got a really nice dance community. So shout out to Miss Louise, my teacher from Derwent School of Irish Dance. So yeah, no, I really enjoy it and actually have some great people who I do dancing with as well. And we've got a little community, and we actually do a little social, which I've organised the last couple. At the end of our term and stuff, we usually have a nice little catch up and things like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing. So one last question. What would your advice be, like 11 years into this now, what would your advice be for someone starting, looking into strength training, getting healthier?
Just take that step and just try it. Just try to push aside whatever fears and things you've got inside, because it is scary when you go into a new place and you're not sure how it's going to go. But just take that first step and go, just start. You've got to start. Like, you can't just keep thinking about it, because you'll just delay it and delay it and delay it and you'll never start. But just take that plunge and just take that first step.
What are some of the things that you tell them to look out for then? Because everyone starts the gym, January's coming up.
Yeah.
Everyone starts the gym in January. What are some of the things that you look out for, like knowing all the different places that you've tried now?
Try not to get sucked in to these commercial gyms with these amazing January offers, because they're just going to be rammed and you're probably not going to enjoy it. Look for somewhere like Infinity, or Infinity if you're in Teesside, where you can build that relationship, that support, and get that support and advice from the coaches. Because especially if you're going to a commercial gym where it's absolutely going to be rammed, you're just going to be a number to them, just a face that comes in. Whereas if you come to somewhere like Infinity, you're going to build them and develop them relationships with the coaches, with the community. People are actually going to be looking out for you. They're going to be helping you, guiding you, educating you, and you're going to be able to build habits that you can keep and be consistent with. Because a lot of people will just go all in, straight in, trying to do 110% in the gym come January the 2nd. And they'll fail and they'll last like a couple of days and then they'll just give up.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go in, don't necessarily go all straight in with 2 feet, you know, like build up that strength and be sensible about it so you don't injure yourself, and, you know, go from there, I would say.
Yeah. Cool. Listen, it has been lovely chatting to you. We've chatted for ages. We could probably go on for another hour or so with this stuff because we've got many stories. Some we probably should keep under wraps. But I appreciate you coming all the way over to Australia just for this podcast. I'm joking. I appreciate you coming down, having a chat with us. It has been amazing to see you in the gym, and we look forward to seeing probably you again over here in the future.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me back. No, it's been great. Thank you. Thanks
I
so
appreciate
much.
it. Right, thank you guys for listening or watching this. I will see you in the next one.